Hey y'all, I'm back. So yesterday I filmed a video called The Ugly Side of Influencing. And I thought that that would be the single only video I would film. But after I was done, I realized I didn't talk about my entire experience. And I think I intentionally kind of glossed over some things that at the time I just didn't think were important to my points. But afterwards I thought that was really cathartic. That felt good and I felt empowered. And so I started to think about some of the things that I had experienced that I didn't talk about. And I was like, I should talk about those. That has led to a part 2 of The Ugly Side of Influencing. And this time I brought my iPad and jotted down some notes so that I wouldn't forget some key points that I want to make. First of all, I do want to say in my previous video, I mentioned that I had some unexpected attention from men just because I was naive and didn't really, in my mind, they weren't even in the picture when I started to think about being a part of the blogger community and the fashion community. And again, in my mind, it was not influencer community. I didn't really know anything about that. And that kind of almost happened on accident. But I was in the, I guess, influencer space for about just a little over a year, 14 months. And a lot happened. And I mentioned men in the first video. What I didn't mention is that there are some lovely men out there, very polite, very supportive, very encouraging. And so not all of the male attention was bad, but the majority of it was. I had a rather small platform, especially to begin with. I didn't, it wasn't even 1,000 followers. Now it did quickly grow. But even for a small platform, I received a large volume of DMs from men, and I'm talking pictures of their privates, messages about my body, just really disrespectful messages that were really stepping over boundaries. And then, in addition to that, you get people who reach out and ask you for money, try to scam you, send you sob stories that are, what I assume are just lies, scamming tactics to try to get you to send them money. It was just, that was crazy and unexpected. And if you don't know about that, you wouldn't know about that. Again, because there is no book, as I mentioned in my first video, that tells you about this space, about this, this platform, and about what happens when you get to be seen as or start to step into the influencer space, the blogger space, I'm sorry, whatever you want to call it. So that was definitely, if I'm thinking about the ugly side, that was not, that's not fun to get those kind of messages. Very disrespectful, like I said. And you can't block everybody because they just keep coming. I think after a while, it did eventually die down. But when I say a while, I mean like 8 to 12 months. And even to this day, I still get a few sporadically sent to me, even though I am not as active, even though, everything has really kind of changed. I'm just more just a private, regular person who posts from time to time. I don't really have that same energy that I had before. I don't really have that same momentum, and yet I still get DM'd by men who are, being disrespectful, and they don't care that you're married, and they don't care that you're not interested. It's unfortunate, and that is, part of the unfortunate side of, I guess, influencing. And I guess that could be not just influencing, but just being on the platform in general, although I think that it probably happens more to those individuals who have grown to a very large platform and who are, if you're showing fashion, if you're showing bags, you tend to be showing your frame, your silhouette, and unfortunately that is getting objectified by some. So that's one thing that, I experienced that I did not enjoy. Thing that I found fascinating And initially, I don't know how I felt about it initially, but eventually I didn't feel positively about it. And that is what's known as, and I think it has different names, but engagement pods or blogger pods, engagement groups. And maybe they have an official name, but that's, I think, how I was referring to them. So basically what happens is when you collaborate with other bloggers on like a giveaway, which again, it's really about just gaining followers. Unfortunately, those giveaways are. I mean, I'm not saying that some people aren't really genuinely wanting to give something away, because I think that's happening too. But if I think about my experience and I look back, it was about gaining more followers, gaining engagement. And so what ends up happening is, so then what happened to me was after the engagement was, or the collaboration was done, and we did the giveaway, somebody won, we did the giveaway. There were a few people that would be like, hey, you want to be a part of our engagement group? And so I ended up being a part of two engagement groups, and they were similar, but yet they were different. One engagement group was a mix of bloggers who had small to medium to large accounts. And I guess when I think about it, both engagements were a mix, but the first one was more of small, medium, I guess, depending on what you think is large. So I don't know, 5,000 followers to 10,000 followers, which I think at the time is where I was at, to 30,000 followers. And the objective of the engagement group is it's a trickery or it's a way to game the algorithm. So, and I don't know a whole lot about the algorithm. I only know what I know, and I don't know how much that is. It's probably not very much. But the point is, apparently the algorithm will push content further if it has more likes in like the first hour or two, and if people comment with more than 2 words. So basically, 1-word comments or emoji comments don't really boost your content. So the goal is to have people in these blogger groups, engagement pods, whatever they're called, and when you upload a post, you drop a heart, or you drop whatever you guys determine. In this case, it was drop a heart in the group chat, and everyone in the group is supposed to go out within an hour and like and comment on your post. I mean, talk about inauthenticity. So initially, I was just happy to be a part of a group. I was happy to be engaged with other bloggers. I wanted to help them. I wanted them to help me. I thought, again, coming from the perspective of a community, I don't know. I was happy about it at first, but as time went on and I was in the group longer, and again, this is the first group, I think the largest account in this group might have been at like 35,000 followers. It was, you start to see people's motives. It was it wasn't about helping each other, inspiring each other, and we did talk about other things. People were having life events that they would talk about, and we'd all jump in and encourage them. But there were some people who were really just there for, make sure you like and comment on my stuff within that first hour so that I'm boosted in the algorithm. And that's it. And sometimes they wouldn't even go out and do the same for you. Maybe they would wait until the next day or hours and hours later, which, if you think about it, the agreement we all have in the group is to help boost each other's content in the algorithm. Looking back on it, it's really stupid, but it also was just, to me, it just is a part of the unfortunate side, because it's inauthentic engagement. And it's very self-serving, or it can be, I guess, unless you're in a good group. And the first group I was in was about maybe 10 or 12 of us, but I had heard of groups having up to like 99 people in them. And people getting pretty cutthroat about it. Like, anybody who didn't engage with someone's post within that first hour, they only had to do that so many times, and then they were kicked out the group. And once you were kicked out the group, you couldn't get back in. Like, even as I'm sharing this with you, this is craziness. Like, imagine, it's crazy, it's inauthentic. Of course, your regular everyday people don't even know that this is going on. Had I not fell into this space, I would not have known this was going on. If you think that everyone who is commenting on someone else's post is commenting because they genuinely and authentically enjoy their content and want to, you're wrong. Some people are doing it to game the system. And as I talk about it, it's just silly. Okay, yeah. Okay, y'all, sorry I had to move because the lighting was getting weird in my living room where I was sitting. Okay, so that was the first group I was in. The second group was really, I was kind of surprised I was even in it. I will not be saying any names. I will not be calling anybody out, but I ended up in a group with two influencers who had huge platforms. I mean, 300,000 followers and plus 300,000 plus, two of them. And this was kind of a spin-off from the original group I was in. And I'm trying to remember, I think somehow I had ended up in a collaboration with these other two bloggers that were pretty big, and they happened to have a group going on and ended up inviting me and maybe 2 or 3 others from my original group into their group based on this collaboration we had done. To be honest, I was surprised to see these were two people, or at least one of them was someone that I had known about before I had ever started. Actually, someone I had admired, a page I had followed, and I was surprised to see that she was in an engagement group. I just thought, you know, once you get to a certain point, you wouldn't need something like this. But there she was, and so was this other person who actually happened to be like a true model and was on commercials in California, and I think had even been in movies. So I was just kind of surprised to see that, first of all, they were in an engagement group, and second of all, that I had somehow found my way into their group. And so the concept was similar. Drop a heart or whatever emoji it was whenever you, and here, let me step back. So there's an owner of the group, and once new people come into the group, the rules are set. So I believe the rules were drop the heart, and everyone is supposed to like and comment within an hour. It might have been 2, but I feel like it was an hour. But it's, you know, pretty quickly, enough time where, you know, we realize everybody's living their lives and they're not on their phone constantly, but it had to be within a certain amount of time or it wasn't going to really help you. And make sure that the comment was at least 3 words or more. So those were pretty much the basic rules as I remember them. And again, it just goes to being, you know, somewhat inauthentic. I mean, there were some people in the group, and this was a larger group. I think at this point we were, in this group, it was like 20 bloggers, 20 to 25, somewhere in there. And there were several ladies in the group whose content I really was enjoying and really aligned with. But there were people in the group that it was like, this is not the kind of content that I'm even interested in. And yet, because I'm in this group with them, I'm now having to force myself to like and comment on something that I really wouldn't be doing so otherwise. And all for more followers and more likes and to game the algorithm and to push your post and push your page further. No, that is, you know, that's not authenticity. That's not authentic. That's not real. And so that, again, it started to turn me off. And then things went south when something went terribly wrong with a couple of the bloggers in that page. They got into some trouble, and I eventually just left the group. I was feeling kind of about being in either of the groups anyway. And I'll be honest, I left that group pretty quickly. I wasn't in it very long, but the first group I was in, you know, I'm going to be transparent here. Some of the people were getting on my nerves who had larger accounts because they didn't feel that they had to be bothered with, you know, liking and responding to other people's content in a timely fashion, yet they wanted it to happen for them. And, you know, I wasn't able to roll with it. So I eventually left the group, but just said that, you know, life was getting too busy for me to continue to participate. And that was somewhat true. I also was just starting to think about stepping back from everything that I was doing as I was learning that this is not exactly what I thought it was. So, you know, just be aware that that's going on. Some of the people you may follow, some of the people you may like, they could be in an engagement group designed just to boost their post, just to get more people engaged. And the more engagement you have, the more likelihood that you may get collaborations with brands, get free stuff, get paid for your posts, things like that. So again, it's just a beast. It's a monster. It's a machine, and it keeps going. And I didn't know all this. I had no idea about any of this when I started. And, you know, in the end, I decided it wasn't for me. There were so many reasons, and this is one of them, that I was just like, nah. And let me get back and touch on a point I made in the first video about receiving free stuff for free posts. I never made it to the level, maybe one post but basically I never made it to the level where anyone was paying me to post. That would have been the next step. And that's about, you know, when it was about time to start going to that next step was about the time that I stepped away from it all. So I never made it that far. And again, my platform was rather small. But what I did get to the point of is getting free stuff, and not, you know, it started out with small things like a dress or, you know, a purse. But then it got to, we're going to send you a box of clothes and you pick so many items from that box and then send the rest back. But the rest, you know, the ones you get to pick, whatever that determined number was, you can keep. And then it also got to the point of, here's just a whole box of clothes. You pick anything on the website, and we'll send that to you. And so it was right about there that I actually, you know, started to see things differently and have a different perspective. But I will share this. And this was another thing that surprised me and was just kind of like, what the heck? But again, being naive and just not knowing any better. But one thing you may not know, and I didn't know, and I would not have known had I not, you know, fell into this space, as I keep saying, is that there's kind of an unspoken rule or an unwritten rule between blogger/influencer and brand X who is sending you something for free. Some of them do want your honest review, and that's awesome, and that's great, and that is in line with being your authentic self. But some of them want you to send your review to them first for them to approve it. And there were occasions where, and if you say to yourself, you know, you don't want to try to sell or promote anything on your page that isn't truly good, that isn't really valuable or worth it. Like, you want to be authentic. That's important to me. I want to be authentic. So I don't want to get something and say, hey, this was great. This was awesome. And it really wasn't. It really sucked. So, you know, I'll give an example. I had gotten a shirt for free this was an Amazon seller, and the shirt arrived. And when I put it on, you know, I didn't love it. It wasn't really my style, but it was something that I could make work. And so that was fine. But it was like, I think it was like let's say a 14 wide, and it was too big. And there was like a little string or something, a little piece, something about the shirt. You know, when I did my review and they wanted me to send my review to them first, I was honest. I was like, you know, the shirt is cute. It is a little big. And since they don't have a size down, you know, they needed to adjust whatever it was I said that, you know, needed to be adjusted because it was something was wrong with it. the point is, it was my true opinion. And the person, you know, the brand wanted me to either change my, and the rating I'd given them, instead of 5 stars, I said 4 stars. And I took off a star because of X, Y, and Z. So the brand wanted me to change my review. They wanted me to give them 5 stars, and they didn't want me to mention the parts that I thought needed to be improved. And I think initially I was just kind of like, what? No, this is my review. You wanted me to review this. There was no agreement. That's why I say unspoken, because I guess maybe I didn't know it was an agreement that's unwritten that I didn't know about, that if you get something for free, you are supposed to just give it a glowing review no matter what. So in the end, I just didn't put my review out there. They asked me not to put my review because I said I wouldn't change it. And so they were like, we don't want your review. And, you know, they didn't ask for the shirt back. I didn't keep it. I think I donated it. But yeah, I mean, you know, what the heck? So be aware of that. Know that that is, you know, happening in the influencing world, that some of these influencers are out here getting stuff for free and they're saying it's amazing, and it may not be. But because they got it for free, they're kind of almost obligated to say that it is so wonderful and amazing. So just, you know, you have to be aware of that. And the truth is, I wasn't always able to be authentic. I wasn't always able to stand my ground because, again, you're getting caught up in free stuff and you want more free stuff. So you're like, yeah, let me give this some good reviews. If it's kind of just borderline and there's nothing like really, really wrong, even if you don't love it or like it, you're just like, well, you know, I got it for free. I mean, there were times where I did just send stuff back. I can remember specifically sending things back because it was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to give this a good review. It's too cheap, or I just can't use it. I'm not going to use it. I can remember offering to send something back and they were like, no, because they didn't want to pay for me to ship it back. And I certainly was not going to pay to ship it back. So I ended up giving that stuff away. But yeah, these are just things that, you know, be aware of. I do want to say there were some good things about that time I spent kind of in that space accidentally. You know, once I was getting caught up in it, as I've shared, it took a minute for me to realize what was happening and how detrimental it was becoming. My feelings would get hurt about things. I would get upset when, you know, sometimes your posts would get flagged for reasons that you couldn't even really understand, and it wouldn't go anywhere. And then my feelings would be hurt because, you know, my post wasn't getting a lot of circulation. And, you know, as I talk about it now, it's all just silly and dumb. But at the time, it was real. And I don't, you know, who needs things like this in their life impacting them negatively? So, you know, if there's this, again, I keep saying this is my experience. If this isn't happening to another person and everything is great for them, then great for them. You know what I mean? Don't change anything. Keep doing what you do. But for me, this was not the best experience. Now, there were some good things to come out of it. As I shared in the first video, I met some amazing women across the world and really made some great connections that went beyond, you know, it starts with fashion and style, but it went beyond that. And I've still kept in contact with some of those folks. Hey, here it is 3 years later, even though I'm not as active and I'm not doing, you know, the blogger thing anymore. But that has been wonderful, and I appreciate that. The other thing that came out of it, you know, I'm 40 years old. Well, now I'm about to be 43 at the end of this month. But when I first started, I had just turned 40. And, you know, I don't know if it was a midlife crisis I was dealing with or what. But one of the good things that came out of this is I did some fit modeling. I did some fit modeling for 2 pretty big plus size fashion brands. And I got paid for it, and I got to feel good about myself, you know. And I was modeling, like, I'm 5'2", I am plus size, and I was doing some real modeling. And sure, it wasn't print modeling, but it was modeling, and I was, you know, getting paid to do so, and I was getting to see some of the latest fashion and the latest trends first, and I was actually getting to be a part of the decisions about fit. So that was awesome. That was a great experience. Like I would have never had that experience otherwise if I hadn't embarked on this journey. And so I take that with me. I get to have that experience, and that was awesome. So it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all doom and gloom, and I don't want it to seem that way. I also made some, I don't want to say male connections. That sounds weird, but I made some friends that were male, I guess. And just like I made some female friends, and they're cool, and they're encouraging, they're respectful. And we still are connected online today and still support one another's pages. And I appreciate that as well. It's not all bad, but I also just want to, say it's not all good either. And there's some things to be careful of. And there's some things that I don't know if they're as well known. And maybe people do know everything I've shared. Maybe people know this and I was the only one, under a rock. I am older. I'm not as hip. I'm not as up on all the latest with technology. So I did step into this very naively, and I just didn't know a whole lot about it. So a lot of things surprised me, and not in a good way, although some things were in a good way. So take what you will from, my little experience and me sharing what, happened to me, or sharing my experience with you. Just know that it's just better to live an authentic life. I'm now trying to be, very authentic to myself, very true to myself. I can still, fall into the occasional influence, or fall under being influenced, I guess. But for the most part, I really try to keep things in perspective and buy what I really want to buy, wear what I really want to wear. And I'm not caught up in the rest of it, or I try not to be. And it's hard because social media is a big part of our lives right now. And it's, for everyone, for most people anyway. I mean, I do know some people who they're just not on any social media, and wow, good for them. But, keep it fun, keep it truthful, keep it honest. And yeah, keep it real. All right, you guys, bye.